The Texas Rangers, the heroes of Hollywood Wild West films, and the ideal image of the noble Texas lawman. But underneath the surface lies a hidden and darker past. There have been countless bloody conflicts between Texas Rangers and Native Americans throughout history, and the stories of how they perpetuated many illicit and immoral crimes during the Wild West era are well hidden from the public. Join us today as we investigate the founding of the Texas Rangers and uncover the many horrible atrocities committed against Native Americans and Mexican Americans. The roots of the Texas Rangers can be traced back over 200 years to the early 1820s, when Stephen F. Austin, often hailed to as the Father of Texas, assembled a group of 10 men known as the Ranging Company of Mounted Volunteers. Stephen F. Austin felt that the government was not up to the task of protecting the citizens of Texas from the horrors of the Wild West, with outlaw gangs and savage Native Americans roaming the dry lands, just to name a few. What started off as a small army of 10 men quickly grew to a government-backed peacekeeping unit. Earlier missions of the Rangers were rather innocent. They included searching surrounding roads and forests for Native American criminals and Native American thieves, and maintain the order and peace in their settlements. But it wouldn't take long before the Texas Rangers would get their hands dirty. One of the earliest accounts of Texas Ranger aggression would be the Battle of Plum Creek. This event took place during the Texas Indian Wars, a series of conflicts between Native American tribes and the Republic of Texas. In August 1840, a large Comanche and Kiowa war party raided the Texan settlement of Linville. The attack resulted in the deaths of several Texan settlers and the looting and burning of the town. In response, a force of Texas Rangers, under the command of Captain John C. Hayes, pursued the Native American raiders. Eventually, the raiders caught up with the Comanche and Kiowa warriors near Plum Creek. The Rangers, along with a heavily equipped militia force totaling to about 175 to 200 men, engaged the Native Americans in a fierce Wild West-style firing squad. Even though the Native Americans had 400 warriors themselves and they outnumbered the Rangers, the superior firepower the Rangers brought to the fight made the Native Americans stand no chance at all. They utilized their cannon artillery to inflict heavy casualties on the Comanche and Kiowa warriors, forcing them to retreat. This would be the first, but certainly not the last battle the Rangers would be involved in. In 1858, tensions between the local Native American tribes and the Texas Rangers flared once again. Native Americans had been conducting raids on the Texan frontier, prompting Captain John S. Ford and his group of Texas Rangers to take matters into their own hands. They would set out and launch a brutal attack on a Comanche encampment. What made this attack so cruel is that the encampment they attacked was an innocent and peaceful one. This particular Comanche camp was not engaged in any immediate hostilities, and they had done no harm to Texas. The main inhabitants of the camp also weren't fighters or warriors. It was much like bringing a lamb to the slaughter. The battle that ensued resulted in the deaths of many innocent Native Americans, including men, women, and children. This brutal act not only intensified the tensions between the Indians and Texans, but also continued the cycle of retaliation. The cycle of retaliation became a recurring phenomenon. Native Americans would carry out frequent raids on Texas settlements as they felt the settlers encroached on their traditional lands, and they saw this as a threat to their way of life. This would almost always be followed up by a retaliation of the Texans, which would then again be followed by a series of raids by Native Americans seeking justice for the bloodshed. While in the meantime, the captives and the death toll only kept going up. One prominent reason for the Texan retaliation was the capture of settlers during Native American raids. On one particular instance, Native American raiders had conducted an assault on a Texas settlement called Fort Parker. A band of approximately 100 Comanche and Kiowa warriors launched a surprise attack on the fort. The attack was carried out with the intent to acquire horses, supplies, and captives. The settlers at Fort Parker were taken by surprise and ended up standing no chance against the raiding party. The attack resulted in the deaths of approximately 5 settlers, with 5 others being wounded. The attackers took Cynthia and Parker, who was just 9 years old at the time, along with her younger brother and other captives. As captives, some were forcibly integrated into the Comanche tribe. Cynthia Ann Parker spent the next 2 decades living as a Comanche and assimilating into their way of life. She was adopted by a Comanche couple and eventually married a Comanche warrior named Peta Nakana, with whom she had several children. One of their sons, Quanah Parker, would later become a prominent Comanche leader. But on one fateful day, the Texas Rangers had received intelligence regarding the location of a large Comanche encampment where Cynthia Ann Parker was believed to be living. Captain Sol Ross led a force of Texas Rangers and Allied troops in a surprise attack on the Comanche encampment along the Peace River in northwestern Texas. The fighting was intense, with both sides sustaining significant casualties. Amidst the chaos of battle, Cynthia Ann Parker was identified among the captives. She was forcibly removed from the Comanche tribe and, quote, rescued by the Texas Rangers. After being brought to a Texas settlement, she was reunited with her birth family. However, Cynthia Ann Parker had integrated into the Comanche culture, and the sudden separation from her Comanche family and way of life proved to be a true nightmare for her. Cynthia struggled to readjust to life among her birth family and the settled world. She longed to return to the Comanche way of life and her children who had been left behind. Despite efforts to reintegrate her into Texan society, she never fully adapted and ended up living in a state of melancholy for the rest of her life. The clashes with Native Americans are just the tip of the iceberg. The Rangers also had their fair share of conflicts with Mexican Americans. The Mexican Americans faced discrimination, mistreatment, and prejudice at the hands of some Texas Rangers. But that is not the worst of all. In 1918, a tragic event took place at Porvenir, Texas. Tensions ran high among ranchers, local law enforcement, and Mexican American communities along the border of Texas. The incident began when a local rancher named Jesus Bazan reported stolen horses to the sheriff's office, accusing residents of Porvenir, a prominently Mexican-American village, of the theft. In response to these allegations, a group of Texas Rangers and U.S. Army soldiers, led by Captain James Monroe Fox, assembled and surrounded Porvenir. They conducted a thorough house-to-house search for the stolen horses and suspected bandits throughout the night, resulting in the arrest and detention of several men and boys in the community. The following morning, the Rangers and soldiers executed the detained Mexican-American men and boys. The victims were marched to a nearby bluff and systematically shot, with their bodies left unburied. At least 15 individuals, ranging in age from 16 to 72, tragically lost their lives that day. Following the incident, news of the Porvenir Massacre spread, leading to public outcry and condemnation. An investigation was launched, but no criminal charges or convictions were brought against the perpetrators. Ending on a sad note, that is all for today. This is Proper History, and we'll see you in the next one.